You guys look like you're arranged properly from my perspective. Um, so let me see. Okay, I'm getting some comments saying that I'm not live, but I think I just clicked go live, so there might be a bit of a delay. So there we go. Okay. Thanks, Chris, for letting me know. And hi, by the way. Happy to see you in the chat. How are we? How are we audio wise? Okay. I, I I did. I'm seeing comments that are saying you're live now. So it looks like it took me a second and there was a delay, but yes, of course. Colby, hey everybody, how's it going? D4 D&D deep dive. I often have to remind people that that's what the four D's stand for, the D&D deep dive. But today, of course, because it's also the Dungeon Dudes, it's D6, right? Um, yes, exactly. My favorite class. So yeah. Ooh, do I get to show mine too? Dude, that that sounds like the best video of all time. I would 100% talk about the monk for 2 hours with you guys. But I would talk about anything for 2 hours with you guys. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just being like, oh, did you see what they did with the tools, and how come this is that and that? And I talked to so and so about contra minor elementals, and they said blah blah blah. Can you believe that? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks, Brandon. Can you guys hold for 1 second? It looks like on my end they're saying no audio from Dungeon Dudes, and a lot of people have been saying that. So that probably means that I've got something to do to figure out that I'm not sure how to figure out. So let me see. Let me try one thing. Um, let's do this. Thanks everybody. Okay. So let's spend 60 seconds on this if we can, or less. And if that doesn't work, then I'll just say, okay, everybody go over to the Dungeon Dudes. Because I don't think I can. It's not that you're muted. I can hear you fine, but it might be that like I'm recording via OBS and it's just capturing my mic as opposed to like the monitor. You know what I mean? Okay, so let me try this. Give me 1 sec. Um, all right, let's see. No, I took a long break between AD&D and 5E. Uh-huh. Wow. That's awesome. And sorry, I'm I'm trying to listen to you and read chat because everybody's throwing me some suggestions. So give me just a second. And I know this is bad. This is bad content. Apologies, everybody. I don't think so, but I think I've got a clue. So I'm just checking one last thing, and if we can't get it, then I'll just say, "Hey, everybody, sorry, it didn't work. Go watch on Dungeon Dude's channel." Because apparently I need to go into OBS, and there's a setting where I can potentially in the Zoom window capture that says capture audio. All right, so let's go into settings here. I didn't know there was like a Zoom anything in OBS. Let's find out. Do desktop audio? No. Sorry, everyone. That's not getting me what I want. Hey, Chris is coming up on 100K subscribers. Just saying. Yeah, we should probably just bring everybody over there. I'm seeing a way to like add basically an audio capture device, but the only thing that it's letting me choose is default, which doesn't seem to be doing anything, or Microsoft Teams audio. There's no like Zoom option. So I'm sure there's a way to make it work. I just don't know what it is. So thanks everybody for your suggestions. And sorry that I'm technically deficient on how to live stream and capture somebody else's audio at the same time. So, everybody who's watching on my channel, I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Go over to the Dungeon Dudes channel and watch it there so you can hear both of us because they're way better at this than I am. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Well, now I'm extra flattered. I don't think there's any of those people that exist. Yes. Apparently, sorry, I was just gonna say. Apparently, I'm gonna leave my stream running because some really dedicated people are just gonna leave me open and muted, which is fine. I don't know if it's gonna do a lot for me because I don't know that I'm. Well, whatever. Sure. If you want to do that, awesome. Thank you. You'll probably see an ad or two, I suppose, and so maybe I'll make a few pennies, and that's great. But you don't have to. Don't feel obligated to do that. Okay, sorry. Continue, Kelly. Yeah. Um, Not necessarily. I think, gosh, there's so many sort of meta things that we could talk about, and then we'll probably end up going off on a bunch of tangents while we go, and hopefully people are here and for that and okay, and just willing to go along for the ride with us. Yes. That's awesome. That's awesome. Sure. And you need to give out gifts. Christmas is coming. Yeah, I like Game Haven here in Bountiful, Utah is where I get all of my actually board games and D&D hard copy books if I need a copy. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yes, it absolutely does. I'm anxiously waiting for that day. Yes. I am very excited about monks, kind of maybe first and foremost as far as classes go. Um, I love that. I think the thing that excites me the most about them personally is that it feels now like you can really be kind of that flurry of blows type character that the fantasy always sort of wants, but mechanically you couldn't really accomplish, maybe to the level that you wanted. I think they actually could have taken it one step further, personally, maybe give them even another sort of flurry of blows or the fighter's third attack or something, though that's fairly unique to fighters, though not really anymore, thanks to Pact of the Blade. But anyways, um, even if it meant doing slightly less damage, I think they could have gone even more that route. But that combined with like the better defensive stuff, deflect blows instead of just deflect missiles, the martial arts die getting a little bump, being able to recover key points. I was about to say discipline points, focus points. Uh, early at level 2 now. There's just a lot of good stuff. That said, I just recorded last week my first monk video. It was an elemental way of the four elements, not way the warrior of the elements monk. And the damage was good, and we took advantage of spike growth. No surprise, probably for people. Um, but it's not quite hitting the same levels damage wise as I was seeing from like the Pact of the Blade Warlock or the dual wielding Paladin that I've done so far, and of course the Valor Bard, but that's Conjure Minor Elementals, a lot of that damage anyways, and we can get into that. But so yeah, so I was like, okay, it's good, but it's not like crazy amazing, and that was even doing some multi-classing and making them kind of a gishy monk, right? So that you could take advantage of spells. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think maybe the main takeaway from that and a lot of the work that I've been doing so far on building characters is that while I do think that marshals have gotten a lot of love in 2024, and especially like when it comes to the things that they can do in addition to just do damage and hit stuff, right? That's maybe where they've gotten the most love, I think, martial characters. Um, there's still a gap, of course, and it seems like the best marshals, and this is maybe not a huge surprise for people who have been playing 5e for a long time, I think are still going to be, gishes, right? Or taking spells, which I don't necessarily dislike because I love playing gishes. But it does kind of make me go, I kind of wish that they would have. I can feel Wizards of the Coast being like, well, we don't want to tip the scales too far, right, in the favor of weapon users. They're getting a lot of cool new tricks and things to play with, and we got to be careful here. We don't want them to just be like doing way too much damage, right? So let's kind of baby steps towards making them more powerful, which yeah makes me a little bit sad, I suppose. But not, but it's not like they totally missed the boat on this, and like marshals suck or anything like that. Like, I'm super excited about where they are, and I still feel like they could have done a little more, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. They got a lot of love. Hmm. You don't think Wizards are there? Really? Ooh, Chris is in your chat right now screaming. Sure. Hmm. Yeah. Sure. A simulacrum, right? Yeah. Right. It's more likely to come out at some table where they've got a lenient DM than it would even at the strictest reading of the rules as written Adventurers League table. Hmm. Hmm. And and in your defense, you are a experienced wizard player and fan, right? Am I wrong in saying that they've sort of historically been your favorite class? Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Other than Twin Spell, which got a big nerf, but everything else got buffed, almost everything else. And sure. It mhm. Tasha's Mind Whip, yeah. I, yeah. Twin Haste is the one that you because you lost concentration. Two players now down for a round. Uh huh. Wow, that's epic. See, but I love high risk, high reward type stuff like that. But anyways, um, go, go. Yeah. Okay. The big complaint about Ranger right now that I totally sympathize with is sort of being pigeonholed into Hunter's Mark, right? Um, I love that they took like an iconic class feature and said, or class spell and said, hey, let's just make this part of the class and sort of add ways that as you take more levels, it becomes better and more powerful and all that kind of stuff. Cool concept. And it is conceptually, and I think you pointed this out in your video of a couple of weeks ago, Monty. You're like, this kind of originated maybe in World of Warcraft, right? But now it's sort of become this thing that's like, hey, this is like an important part of Hunters. Um, Sorry, I say Hunters. That's my World of Warcraft background, Rangers. Um, and and I think it's great. I just wish, and I'm sure you guys would probably agree, that if you're going to sort of say, hey, you really want to use this spell, hey, you want to keep using this spell as you level, you want to keep using the spell, and the features that we're going to give you to help you be more powerful are, assuming that you're casting the spell. I wish they would have at least eventually at least let you cast it without concentrating, right? I think that's a fairly easy fix. And that way it feels like, oh, cool, my iconic sort of class feature, I still get to use, I still want to use, but also I can still use other cool things and not have to choose, between this thing that this class feels like it's being built around or something else, right? Um, mhm, mhm, hmm, Mm-mm. No. No. Yeah. Yeah, especially when compared not to the 2014 Player's Handbook, but to the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything Ranger, right? They didn't get a lot compared to Tasha's. Um, I love what you guys were saying, what you were saying, Monty. Well, both of you about that idea of sort of giving new options for Hunter's Mark and for other classes too. I look at it as, and maybe we can shift into a paladin conversation here because, um, I love what they did conceptually with rogues and sneak attack. And I think that is the model, that's the precedent, right? That they can kind of take and build on, which is like, hey, this thing that you could already always do, you can still always do it, and if you want to, you can do other things with it too. Now, the rogue, maybe in particular, for me, kind of gets back to like our initial conversation that that I was, the things that I was saying about like I think they could have gone a little further as far as giving marshals a little more damage. I think rogues maybe more than any other character. You just see them going, oh, like we don't want to give them too much sneak attack damage, and then they end up, I think, suffering as a result. But um, you know that idea of saying, hey, as you level up you get more and more options for things you can do with your sneak attack is so cool and perfect. And they could do it with hunters, they could or rangers, they could do it with barbarians. And I wish because I love that with paladins now. um, the other smite spells are a lot more interesting than just divine smite, right? And this follows this idea of like, ooh, blinding smite, oh, banishing smite. Well, banishing smite of course was always good, but whatever, thunderous smite, searing smite, etc. Maybe I want to use those now, even if they are likely going to do a little less damage. But for me, where the thing with hunters, gosh dang it, rangers and hunter's mark, is concentration. The thing with paladins and the divine smite is the bonus action requirement. I think I fully, again, I sympathize with people who are really upset about the change. I think that paladins are still in a great place, still maybe better than ever. In fact, I would say that they're maybe the character that I most want to play in 2024 rules, even above monk, maybe, is a paladin. I love the changes, especially to Vengeance Paladin and Devotion Paladin, where they can use their Channel Divinity without needing to use a bonus action or whatever. Right, so awesome. I want to do a Pact of the Blade dip on a Devotion Pally and just be like a sad charisma based, awesome, hard hitting paladin. So cool. You still need a 13 strength, but you can still but then you can pump charisma overall and still have an amazing aura and spell save DC and attack to hit and to damage. But anyways, um the bonus action, right? That is so, to me, almost, I hate to use too strong a language, but it's damning. Like it's I don't see myself using divine smite like hardly ever on a paladin build going forward as a result, because while sure, like you're going to get some damage out of it, and maybe especially if you're going to use a higher level spell slot, but do you really want to use a high level spell slot on a smite? Maybe, right? Let's say you're using a fourth level spell slot to do 5d8 damage, right? Well, like if you have a weaponized bonus action, and there are a lot of ways to have a weaponized bonus action, right? it's not like, oh, I'm going to do 5d8 more damage than I otherwise would have. It's like, well, I'm going to do 5d8 damage, but I could have done, you know, whatever. A d8 plus my strength modifier, plus if you've got any, extra damage on a hit stuff. It's almost like, okay, well, that's a little more damage, but I'm spending a big spell slot to do that. Now, maybe if you crit, okay, now it's a little more. Okay, fine, I'll use my bonus action, but like, ugh, I like, I, I'm okay with the once per turn. Sorry, with well, yeah, once per turn, once per round thing. I get where they're going in their, I think, desire to kind of rein burst damage in general across the board with 2024, and maybe we can talk about that. Maybe I'm wrong on that, um, but but requiring a bonus action just kills me. And why not just do what they did with sneak attack and say, okay, once per turn, you can spend a spell slot and divine smite, or use one of these other spells. And I that feels like a big miss to me. That said, again, I still think paladins are in an awesome place. I still can't wait to play a paladin. Um, but yeah, yeah, and have your aura. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-mm. They required concentration. Yeah, so it's just like, why would I? Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And I would say most combat encounters in most games, if you're taking your first turn to cat to bonus action divine favor, second to bonus action hunter's mark, and then round 3 you're firing on all cylinders, your combat encounter's probably over either that round or the next round. Maybe by round 5, right? So yeah, it doesn't work that well outside of some encounters and or tables where they let you maybe while the villain's monologuing say, "I cast divine favor on myself," before you roll initiative, which doesn't always work, right? Anyways. And even if you don't, like, that's a win for your party, right? My saddest thing, the saddest thing for me about having to like actually cast a spell with divine smite is that it hurts barbarian paladin multi-class, because you can't smite while raging. Hmm. Mm. And just dip. Yep. it doesn't really do multi-classing. It kind of lets you pick up some features of a class, basically. Yeah. Makes me sad. I like a zealot barbarian pally combo. It's just fun, but that's okay. World Tree. It's not because it's new and fresh. It's so good. It is. It is. It is. I just think. No, we don't need to embellish. There's 12 classes. This will take. We'll be here all day. Um, I think the Valor Bard's the winner, anyways, because they got the Blade Singer's extra attack and some fun new spells like oh gosh, what's the new spell that adds damage to every hit but it doesn't scale? It's a isn't it a fourth level spell? Druids and bards get it. Anyways, that one. Yeah. Yes. But but the Glamour Bard has the best artwork. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. I think the dance bard in that we saw in the playtest was like, oh, why would I ever be a monk? And they brought it, they reined it in. I think for release, almost to the point where I go, I don't know if I'd ever play this. Um, right? Maybe without multiclassing. I think with multiclassing, there's a lot of potential, maybe especially. But anyways, yeah, yeah. I'm probably starting a script this week. I'm definitely starting a script this week for a cleric. I haven't decided what subclass I'm going to use yet. I think I'm probably going to go war. I like trickery just because it went from being, to me, mechanically really meh to like interesting, right? And there's some potential there now. But I still really like light. But yeah, I think I'll stay war. Hmm. For yeah, support. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that again, like you just said, I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to do with your druid, right? If you want to go in and mix it up in combat, I think Moon Druid's still really good, and I see people complaining a lot about the changes, and I don't see it. Like, I love the temporary hit point thing because like now you can just stay in your form until you drop to 0 hit points instead of until your 34 hit points or whatever that you have as a wild shaped bear run out, right? So I think it lets you stay a lot longer. There's more spell options that you have now. Not only did you get more spells, but you can cast more spells while you're shaped. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, for the Moon Druid especially, we're gonna have to wait and see when the new monster manual comes out. Like that'll be the real, like, please more beasts at higher CR, especially, right? Um, but I like the Circle of the Sea in concept, but the fact that like the new Wrath of the Sea, which everything sort of is balanced around, requires you to like spend is it a bonus action every time to like do the thing, makes it less interesting to me. Um, I I don't know though. I love land druids because you can choose which land you attune to every day, and your spell list. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sure, sure, yeah, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. I think Stars was I think Stars was previously the best druid personally, and now it's just a really good choice among really good choices. Um, you're gonna say Battle Master. You're not. You're gonna say Eldritch Knight. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. And again, getting the Blade Singer extra attack, like I think it just opens up stuff. Sure. Or True Strike, maybe. Sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. I agree with that. I still love the Psy Warrior though too. Uh, they're so cool. Hmm. Way better. My video that I have coming out tomorrow is mostly a champion. It's just like a baseline. It's like a true sustained damage build. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love both of those classes, and I like the Warrior of the Hand as well. Maybe especially since we can both Flurry of Blows and just bonus action Unarmed Strike without it being tied to the attack action, right? So we could do it first. I still think the Mercy Monk might be, if we're just talking like mechanically strongest, I think the Mercy Monk might still be it, even though they got nerfed, which upsets me greatly. The flurry of healing and harm got nerfed, and that annoys me because you can only do it one like limited number of times. Anyways, um, yeah, I still think I probably think that. I love I love like Elements Monk definitely got like the most love of all the subclasses. And I guess maybe of all of them, it's sort of most dependent on what everyone else in your party is doing, right? If you've got somebody who's innately doing something that you're going to really benefit from pushing and pulling them into or through, then Elements Monk is going to beat all of them. Um, that doesn't have to be spike growth. Maybe it's web. Maybe it's whatever. But otherwise, like if you're not doing something inherently on your own to create some sort of something on the battlefield that you're going to want to be pushing and pulling enemies into and out of, then it's not as good. Though I mean, they do get other cool stuff. They can fly. I mean, they get there's lots of okay. Okay. And we've talked about this already in person a little bit, so I don't feel bad saying it. I think the Arcane Hand Monk plus the 2014 Monk rules, it might have been just maybe potentially, arguably, a little overtuned. If so, maybe only if you're building with like a super like optimizer min maxer approach, right? Um, if you take it as is with the upgrades that the base class got, I think that one might need to be revisited. Make up for, yeah, and it was needed. Pally. It depends on what weapons you're using and like if you're multi-classing. I think Vengeance probably does have a slight edge, but Devotion is my favorite. I love that you can add your charisma modifier to your attack like per short rest. I wish that if it just applied to all of your attacks and it wasn't like for a weapon, you know what I mean? Then I think Devotion would have the edge. But since Vengeance does just give you advantage on all of your attacks, I think it probably has the mechanical edge there. And it has a better spell list. Yeah. Yeah. I know. And offline I've been like, well, Kelly, you could just play like if you really need your backstory to be naturey, then you should just make yourself a wood elf or something, and then you can still play a vengeance paladin. Okay. There's a little sneak peek into the upcoming season of Drakenheim. Yeah. Yeah. Devotion. Devotion could work. Kelly, you should play what you want. And Ancients got some love, and they're probably the best like defensive subclass, I think. And that's not nothing, right? So yeah, you should play Ancients. I feel like I need to build a Beastmaster first before I can feel like I can answer this question definitively. The Fey Wanderer is still my favorite conceptually. The Gloomstalker, because of the Dread Ambusher nerf, mm, probably is still the best mechanically, but it's closer now. Maybe I'll just say that. Yeah. Yeah, having two, I built a Fey Wanderer character specifically to do this, so I could have two friendly fairies fighting with me, right? One using concentration, one not. Edge Lord, yes, yeah. And I am biased towards anything that has shiny, happy, like Leonin characters with flowers in their beard, in their mane. All right, all right. I mean, spells are spells, right? And I think there used to be an argument for assassin if you were playing in a campaign where you could fairly consistently get surprise. But now that you're not doing like auto crits on surprise with assassin, I don't think you can really make that argument anymore. Thanks to changes to like the dual wielder feat and the Nick property and stuff, I think there's a lot of potential for lots of fun attacks and even thrown attacks. With the Sai knife, that's gonna be the first, like the next, I guess I should say, rogue that I think I'll do a build for. Um, did I say Sai knife? Soul knife, yeah. I'm thinking Sai warrior. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But of course, you could say thief depending on your table. Like if you have a DM that lets you sort of like go to the Magics R Us store, every time you're in town and buy like kind of whatever magic item you want, and you're constantly getting yourself wands of fireballs and stuff like that, like thief thief's gonna be really good. Yeah. Right. Right. You want a heist. You want a good heist campaign. Sorcerer. Sorcerer. I think it has to be the Clockwork Sorcerer. Even though, and I don't see a lot of people talking about this, by the way. And I haven't watched your guys' Sorcerer video, so maybe you did. Um, but like the fact that you can't like change out your Clockwork Sorcery spells, right? Like for other schools, other classes spell lists was a massive blow to both of those subclasses. But they still have the best the best spell list. Sure, sure. You know what? I'm gonna throw a curveball here, and I'm gonna say it's wild magic. And the reason is because, well, twofold. One, because how easy it is going to be to get yeah, the artwork is great. How easy it will be to get advantage for yourself, right? And how easy it will be to be able to roll on the wild magic table when you want to. Um, and then the other reason that it's so good is because the wild magic table got buffed. Like there's a lot more good things that will happen now when you have a wild magic surge. Right. You still could, and you still might have a beard of feathers, but like there's just more positive things now that can happen with the surge. Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. It's RNG. Yeah, it's up to the dice. And even if you get a positive thing happening, it might not necessarily help you in that moment, right? It might not be what you need or want. I mean, I think it is. I, I think it's the great old one mechanically, but the Archfey is for sure my favorite, and feels the most fun to me. All that teleporting would just be, I think, so fun to play in game. Just your Nightcrawler, the Warlock, you're just bamfing all over the battlefield and doing increasingly cool things when you do. You know what I mean? As you level, it's just yeah, but great old one. I mean, again, similar to the the Ranger, the Fey Wanderer, right? You're oh for Wizard. Um, they all look really good. If you want to be a blaster, I love just the simple switch, taking sculpt spells and potent cantrip and swapping them. Like is so great, I think. And like the way that you can get more evocation spells, well, all of them can get more spells of their spell school now is so awesome. And I mean, I still love the abjurer, the abjuration, and I feel like their ward got some love, and it just yeah, there really are no bad choices with wizard, especially that didn't get included. I would assume. Hmm. Yeah, and it's a pretty like unique and also quintessential archetype for a rogue, right? The yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say Blade Singer, and 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 that said, I'm almost glad that it didn't get included because I'm worried that they would like nerf it. You know what I mean? And so it's like maybe I'm happy that it didn't get included, but sure, I would have loved to see it get included and maybe get a little love. That that was my favorite fighter subclass. So many. I was just gonna say the armorer artificer was the biggest snub. Really? Why is that? Mhm. But it often does. Hmm. Sure. It's like it's steampunk meets yeah, sure. Yep. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And their recent video that they had that's like what's next for D&D that you guys were in. I think they talk about it there, don't they? Or maybe it's in one that they aired just after that. They're like it's coming. I think it's like going to be their first next book. And you guys got I want to see the uncut footage. That you should at least be able to release that to Patreons or something. That's it. Hey, thanks. Let me shout out. Sorry, Big Bad Brad, who asked the same question in my chat, and gave me some love. Thanks, Brad. Because I have like 80 viewers, 80 diehards who hung on despite my audio technical issues. Yes, of course. Release the dude's cut. Yeah, the super cut of your. Hmm. The new vest. Yeah. Before, yeah, they were having some issues. But yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Before we take questions from chat, and by the way, I'll be looking for questions as well from the. It's now up to 99. Ooh, I got a surge. Thanks. Um, I did want to talk with you guys about one other thing, and that is what to me is very huge, and maybe still again I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about, is the changes to all of these spells that used to say um, a creature takes damage when they first enter the area of effect of this spell on a turn, and or when they start their turn there, right? And if you looked at the Sage Advice Compendium in particular, they talk about they have a big long section on these spells: Moonbeam, Cloud of Daggers, Spirit Guardians, these types of spells, right? And they very specifically say that, like, essentially, if a creature is moved into the area, then they're going to take damage. So hurl away is the line, right, from the Sage Advice Compendium. And as a result, I think it really encouraged a lot of like builds where you would be forcing movement from an enemy into, whether pulling them into Spirit Guardians or pushing them into Cloud of Daggers or Moonbeam, etc. And then they would take damage when they first entered the area on a turn and at the beginning of their turn, right? Um, all of those spells, as far as I can remember, and there may be one that I'm missing, but all of those spells that show up in the player's handbook now, anyways, have had their wording changed, right? Where it's like they take damage when the the spell effect area is like moved onto them, um, and or when they end their turn in the area. And that so vastly changes how these spells work for characters. And not only does it encourage potentially, say, grappling, right, or other ways to like slow or snare or like reduce an enemy's move speed to zero so that they will stay in the area of effect and therefore take damage at the end of their turn. But more than that, I think it really changes the way that you could. So, for example, the build that I'm going to be working on now this week is going to be trying to sort of work around this, where you're doing a Spirit Guardians spell or something like it. Druids have a similar one now, though it's a fourth level spell, right? Um, and like if the creature takes damage, like when you move them into the, like when you run by them and get them in the area of your Spirit Guardians, they're going to take damage, right? And though that makes sense, I think, logically, and initially when I first read that spell, I remember thinking, wait, it doesn't do damage like when I just like move these spirits into their area. Like, it seems like they would take damage there. That makes sense logically, but I think the reason that they decided to not have that happen is because now that it does, like, you could very easily say on your turn, move up so that you get a bunch of enemies in your Spirit Guardians, or maybe even just run around the battlefield, right? So that you go ping 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 and you hit everybody in your Spirit Guardians. Then hold your action, ready your action to, on somebody else's turn later, run around the battlefield again and do damage to everybody a second time with Spirit Guardians. And all you really have to do is like move around the battlefield, right? Now, it's possible that that might be a bad faith reading. You could argue that, and some DMs might be like, "That's cheesy." No, but at the very least, it works as written. You know what I mean? It was. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I don't dislike it by any means. In fact, if I had to choose one way or the other, I'd choose the new way. But I do get a little worried that we're gonna just see a lot of people playing clerics and taking spirit guardians and not really doing anything other than maybe like a healing word with their bonus action or something. You know what I mean? And just like run around the battlefield, hold my ready my action to run around the battlefield again when it's someone else's turn or something like that, so I can do the damage again. And maybe even some outlier shenanigans where it's like, okay, now my barbarian on his turn is going to grapple me, or maybe my maybe a monk character who can step of the wind and take somebody with them, right, when they get higher level anyways, and they're going to run around the battlefield with me too and just like do damage to everybody. And that's maybe at that point maybe we're bad faith, right? And it's silly, but you're just being sticky. Sure. Yeah. Oh, I'll build at least one. I'll always build at least one character that might be ridiculous, just to kind of say, hey, like here's a thing, and then you figure out if this is something that maybe you only play in a one shot, or if you want to make it a longer term character concept, then be sure and talk with your DM and the other players at your table about it. Yes, you guys go first. I've got a couple as well. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, templates. Yeah. Yeah. Make them specific. Sure. And be interesting and potentially useful. Yeah. No such thing. I'm gonna say I'm also gonna say conjure animals. Sorry to be boring, everybody. But conjure animals specifically. Like that was my least favorite spell in the game, and yeah, I wish with conjure animals that they would have kept the playtest version of it, which was that they made an attack. That was just different, at least, and interesting. Now it's a saving throw, like pretty much every other spell similar to it, but they don't take half damage on a save. And so it's like, ooh, that is a lot worse. But anyways, yeah, I would say that, or maybe honorable mention, divine favor not requiring concentration. Sorry, hunter. Sorry, rangers. Mhm. No. Yes. Do you think you'll ever make your own third-party source book like the dudes did? I would love to see your take on balancing new species, subclasses, spells, and other character options. Thanks, Beast Slayer. Um, I think if I ever did a book, a third-party book, it would probably be something like some sort of, and I've talked with you guys about this before, some sort of like a big bad, BBEG, a book of 50 BBEGs or something like that, big bad bosses, where I'm taking sort of my favorite builds and saying, hey, like here's a great kind of boss fight for your players. The potential problem there is they're all sort of like um, none of them are monsters, right? They're all like humanoids essentially. Of course, you could take that, and so maybe part of that would not just be like a recreation of the character build that I did with cool artwork or whatever, but maybe some potential backstory ideas or plot hooks for them, and or ways that you could turn them from a half elf to a different type of creature, something like that. Um, oh, thanks. Beyond that, I think I have more passion for taking existing systems and playing with them and analyzing them than I do creating my own and like world building around that and stuff like that. That's just maybe I think where my strength lies and also my interest. That could change one day, I suppose. But yeah. Mm. Hmm. But maybe let it see. For me, I think I would err on the side of making it stronger. I would just go no concentration, and even maybe at higher level, call it level 10 or 11, it no longer requires a bonus action to transfer. um, I don't know, I'd have to play with that and see if it's maybe too good. Yeah. Hmm. You're mad about that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think the real change potentially to Fine Steed is that they're very clear that like this is a controlled mount, right? And before it was, while they had, while they said in the rules there's controlled mounts and there's independent mounts, the wording of the spell for Fine Steed used to kind of make it seem like it's both. You know what I mean? Potentially. I mean, like you act as a seamless unit and you speak telepathically with them, and they kind of do what you want them to do. Was kind of the feel of it. And so I think the way that that played out in game, at most tables, I could be wrong, is that people who had Fine Steed, like that steed basically went where they wanted them to go when they were mounted on them, but also got to make attacks on their turn, right? And now it's sort of just like, nope, you just got like a bunch of extra free movement on your turn, and your mount can take the disengage action too if it wants to, so you can really kind of be all over the battlefield, and it's nice. Yeah. Let me do another one. Let um I do want to ask everyone, what is your favorite multi-class to make with the 2024 rules? I want to make a dance bard and warlock to preach my patron. Thanks, Wacky Warrior. Favorite multi-class? with the 2024 rules. I mean, I think for me it might be monk druid right now, just because of course I love monks, and when you can couple them with some cool spells, it really opens up the playing field as to kind of what they can do and their power levels, I think. But yeah, that's me. What about you guys? Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, what? But I should probably qualify. I take one level of fighter on 90% of my builds. What about you, Monty? Okay. It's still the bacon of D&D. Okay, you guys next. Hmm. Sure. Yeah. Take a skill, take a proficiency. Well, and and not only that, but they do have text in there on page 38 that says if you want to take an old background, you can, and you basically do exactly what you guys just said. And so I don't know why they couldn't have just said if you want to take an old background or create your own, blah blah blah. Like here's what you do. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I do think that most tables will be allowing one or the other, taking an old one or customizing, if not both. But I could be wrong. Um, let me do one. Sorry. What do you think about the lack of support for archery builds and the lack of changes to range combat? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that. Well, okay, so I don't think crossbow expert itself got nerfed necessarily because they changed it so that you can still make a bonus action attack with hand crossbows. It's just that you can dual wield them now, right? Because there's no ammunition or loading. The real problem potentially is no sharpshooter with the -5 to hit, +10 to damage. Um, but but um, Great Weapon Master now works with longbows and heavy crossbows, right? It doesn't specify that it has to be melee. And so there's still, I think, probably, depending on your build, the stronger ranged weapon user now is your longbow or your heavy crossbow user. And I like that a lot because I think the fantasy for ranged weapon dealers is not having little hand crossbow pistols, it's being Legolas. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, get out your longbow. Now you can't bonus action attack with that longbow, and that's the potential problem. But to be fair, Great Weapon Master isn't great with Polearm Master anymore, right? Because you don't do that extra damage from Great Weapon Master on anything but your attack action attacks. So, yes, I do think that generally ranged weapon users are probably going to be a little bit, at a disadvantage damage wise than melee. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily because you're gaining like defensiveness, right? Being able to attack from range is going to keep you safe, and so maybe there needs to be a give and take there. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Right. 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 Hmm. Oh, but she's so sweet. Right. Yeah, it might be. Sure. Sure. No, I agree with you. And I do like that dual wielding is now so very viable. And in fact, depending on the build, depending on the level, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to go into this actually on my video that comes out tomorrow. Um, you know, dual wielding is going to be better in some situations than heavy weapon using. But heavy weapon using is still really good. And again, depending on the build, depending on your level. And so that's awesome. Like that like that's how it should be, right? There should be some parity here where it's like, well, depending on how I want to build this character, I should do this or that, and both look good. And now I have to make a choice. And if it doesn't feel like there's a choice, then that's bad game design, right? Um, do you guys want to do another question? I've got one more too. And yeah, sorry to everyone who were not going to get to your questions. Okay. What feat would you say is the most improved in the player's handbook? I'm going. I'm going grappler because it was so bad, and now it's really good. I mean, just because not only is it a half feet now, but like you get to drag without taking damage or sorry movement reduction. You get advantage on all of your attacks, which wait that was a thing before, right? I don't know. Anyways, it's really good and kind of getting back to your point that you made earlier, Kelly, about like monks and grappling. Yeah, I think monks are all going to probably benefit from doing what jujitsu and judo as opposed to just kung fu. There's yeah, there's a lot of potential. Yeah, yeah. Hey, hey, that's way better than any belt I have. So if we got into a judo fight, you would absolutely destroy me. That's right. It's all about leverage. Hmm. Have you tried turning your computer off and turning it back on? Delete your cookies. Same. Yeah. 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 It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. It's that punch. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I can appreciate that the concern over like introducing lots of saving throws, every time you're making an attack. I do get that. I think that I think that also there were already a lot of ways to knock people prone, right, in the game. I mean, monks could do it. Taking the shove action could do it, right, etc. And battle masters, like you said, among others. And so it's not like it's a really new concept. The difference now is that potentially on every attack that you're making, there's a saving throw attached to it, right? And I get that, but I wouldn't consider it overpowered. Not only because it already exists, but also because it's a Constitution saving throw, right? And you've got to take a specific weapon and have weapon mastery to get it. And you're going to be giving, what are you giving up instead, right? Graze, cleave, etc. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they get to level whatever it is. Yeah. Or 10. Yeah. Mm-hmm. To really, yeah. 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 Disadvantage on their next attack. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There are lots of fun ways to play with those weapon masteries that I probably haven't even really started to think about. My hope is that DMs will just kind of, if you're playing with somebody who's got topple weapon mastery and they're using it all the time, that they'll just get good and quick at being like, okay, here we are in a fight. Like I need to know my con saves, on my monsters, and just every time an attack lands. Sure. I got to make 5 saving throws. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're 2 hours in, huh? I've got several, but I don't know if I can single one out. Um, nice. Ooh, nice. I'll throw out one quick one, um, and this can just be a quick response. Backgrounds having the ability score bonus to character creation is my least favorite 2024 change. But what are your thoughts? Why did 2024 do that? So why tie ability score bonuses to backgrounds as opposed to species now? Do you like it or not? And why in 2 sentences or less? Yeah. Sure. Sure. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Sure. Yeah, she's like a skinny little girl. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. or they had to be an elf, or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And your and from your class. Yeah. 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 I don't have a lot to add to that other than well, no, I don't have a lot to add to that. Well, I just will say, I guess, I do wish that they would have either had more backgrounds or provided a little more flexibility within the backgrounds, like maybe give two origin feat choices, or you know, four ability scores that you could potentially increase, just so that for those who are playing at a table where custom backgrounds are not allowed, old books content are not allowed, they didn't feel like, well, I guess I have to be a sailor because I need these ability scores for my character and I want this origin feat. So now I got to work in sailor to my backstory somehow. You know what I mean? Um, that is a little bit of a bummer to me. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm. If you want wisdom, strength, and charisma, like it doesn't exist. I'm just throwing out an example. That might exist, but yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Do these. Yeah. 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 I agree. Here's my closing, my parting question for you guys. What would I have to do to convince you to move to Utah? I know. I got these kids. I would move to Canada in a heartbeat. I don't feel like I can transplant my children right now. I mean, it is this close. It's okay. I know. I would too. Yeah, let's move to no, I'm gonna say Switzerland or Ireland. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's move to Kerry or to Killarney. Yeah, I love it. Okay. Yeah. I could get on board. Oh, yeah. Well, Utah's not that way, and it's beautiful. The mountains are great. I love it. But thank you guys so much for setting this up, for inviting me. Um, you are fantastic. You really are, and I love you guys, and wish that we lived closer. Yes. Yeah. Well, now that you're not going to, there was a con that you're not going to at the end of October. Maybe I'll have to. My wife and I are going to Chicago at the end of October. Maybe we should make it a little. Anyways, we can talk. We can talk offline about that. Yeah, I did, and it was awesome. I loved it. That's cool. Fantastic. Yeah, and sorry everybody who was trying to watch on my channel. Thanks for being there originally, and thanks for those of you that hung on at the deer to the bitter end. I'll if we do this again, and I'd love to, I'll try and figure out how to make sure that I'm both, you know, streaming from OBS but capturing your guys' audio. Okay, D6. Let's do it. Okay. Thanks everybody. See you guys.